Well, good evening, everyone, and it's finally here. Seems like forever after the last game of last year, but the 2024 edition of Rejoice Christian Eagles football has arrived. Hello and welcome to Rejoice Christian Eagles Coaches Show. I'm Bill Bush, joined by my wingman, Mark Kirk, and of course, head coach of the Rejoice Eagles, Brent Marley, and as always, Todd Whitten back there behind the camera and the controls. We're coming to you live. Schaefer, and right up the middle goes Noah, and he busts through and touchdown. Back to pass is Cale, looking over to his left. He got his man there. That is Tristan Willis, and he may be gone to the races. He makes one man miss. He's down to 5. Touchdown! Rejoice Christian Eagles, as Tristan White did a lot of that on his own, making several men miss. Well, good evening and welcome everyone to the Buffalo Wild Wings Rejoice Christian Eagles Coaches Show. I'm Bill Bush, joined by my wingman Mark Kirk, head coach Brent Marley, and defensive coordinator Matt Eckel. And we're broadcasting to you live tonight, again from our Coaches Show location, Buffalo Wild Wings at 9623 North Owasso Expressway right here in Owasso, Oklahoma. We want to thanks to Hunter and B-Dubs and all the staff. Josh tonight, and then of course our waitress Billy, who's taking care of us tonight. They do a good job. So come up and enjoy some wings. You can watch the show and then when
World Series and
well, but they have to wait till the show's over.
Well, yeah.
Then they can go watch World Series.
Keep on glancing at it, you know.
Monday Night Football.
No, we're not doing it. Yeah,
priorities. Well, the number one Eagles went over to Shoto last week and took care of business, and it certainly didn't look like the team went into the game, a team meaning the Eagles went into the game thinking it was going to be a cakewalk. They came in and they clicked very effectively on offense and that defense. And I know Matt's going to be glowing. He already was when he walked in tonight. But, I mean, once again, didn't allow the opponent to get into the end zone, pitching their second shutout of the season. And I'm thinking, I talked to Coach Eckel before the show started, that Alex Yorman was, I told him, I said, he's got to be one of your favorite players from Friday night, preserving that shutout with his hustle down the line. Coach, we talked about how you couldn't go over to Shoto Maize and take that game lightly. And obviously, you know, after the fact, we're able to completely overwhelm them. But what did you tell your players before as you're heading over to Shoto? I'll ask you first as far as your offense.
You know, offensively is a little bit different than defense. We know what we want to do and what we want our game plan to be. They have a vote, but it's our job to establish dominance and run what we want to run and do what we want to do. You know, so film-wise, we didn't have, like, great film in prepping as far as what other people had done versus them. But, you know, we got in a rhythm pretty quickly. They were stacking the box pretty good. Which was giving us some passing early on. But anyway, I thought we clicked pretty well. You know, I don't think we punted in the first half and scored on every possession. So anyway, it was but we didn't get it a whole lot either because defense did a tremendous job, like you said, but the way that they do offense, they just milk the clock.
Right.
You know, and it
at least they tried.
They tried to,
yeah.
Shoot up a lot of it.
Well, and Coach Eckel, I mean, the guys are able to check standings. I mean, they can go out and look, and I mean, they can see for themselves, they know what kind of team they're getting ready to play. Is it hard to convince them that they need to play like they're playing a top-tier team when they go and take on a team like Shoto Maize?
Well, I think we just, you know, try to emphasize them not to be complacent, and, you know, the biggest opponent really, and sometimes is yourself, and we don't want to take any steps backwards. You know, the playoffs are not far away, and we just want to continue to get better and better. And also, I mean, when you saw them on film, I know they struggled, but you look at the size of some of their kids, and then when you come out there and see them in person, you know, it gets real in a hurry when you've got a 220-pound running back and several really large linemen, and they know it's going to be a physical game, and they're going to have to give their best effort. So, no, I think the kids did a great job just being ready and not looking at records or scores or anything like that and just going and playing our game. So.
I think the same thing. You know, that game had all the trappings of could be a trap game, right? And really, when it came out and you saw Shoto Maisie playing, they were not without talent.
Oh, their tailbacks were huge.
Oh man,
and
they
hard
had
to
some
bring down.
assets. They definitely did, and they did not look like a team that was struggling to win games.
Right.
They looked like a team that could definitely put some points on the board, and they had a halfway decent defense too. So I was kind of surprised, but again, I was really proud of our guys. They came out and they did keep their head in the game. They played their positions properly. They stuck to their responsibilities. And just like we said before the game, I think if Rejoice plays the game that Rejoice knows how to play, they play their game. Just like Coach Marlowe was talking about, things are going to turn out well.
Right. Yeah. Well, and just a tremendous job by the offense and defense. I'd say the special teams too, but gave up 2 fake punts for first downs. There was a little discrepancy in kind of on one of them that maybe it wasn't quite a first down, but nevertheless,
That's how it goes in the books.
Yeah, and I think that's about the 4th one that we have actually given up this year, where we've given up a fake punt. So obviously something that I don't know if other coaches have seen, but we've got to, but that was really the only thing that I thought that, was lacking as far as the special teams. Offense pretty much scored at will, scoring 48 points, with 49 points with a second half running clock. And that defense, like I say, just continues to play at a very high level. And early in the game, bending but not breaking. There were at least 2 times they were down inside the 20. We were able to turn them away and actually, take the ball in. Like you said, I think we didn't punt at all the first half, and so taking all those possessions and scoring. But, again, pitching that shutout. And we cleaned up the penalties this game. Did we actually do anything, or is that just the difference in officiating crews? Because, you look back, and we had very few penalties this week compared to the previous week.
Yeah,
I had my idea.
What was your idea?
I think we did a pretty good job, just like we did last week. I think it just kind of I was pleased with the outcome. Put it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a few holding calls. I think that at one point got a little frustrated. They run the ball every single time, and they didn't get a holding call all night, and so Coach Johnson was saying we need to go clinic and figure out how to run block like they do, where we don't get holding calls. But they had a couple offsides that we got them to jump on our hard count, and they got to call that, right? The whole stadium sees it.
Right.
But no, I think it was a pretty clean game. I think the officials were overall maybe not trying to be noticed too much.
Right. Which unfortunately happens in some games, as we've seen this year.
Right. But yeah, it was, not the best. I don't know if you got it, Bill. I think we had eight penalties for, I can't remember the yardage.
30, I think, or 40.
Yeah, maybe it was 6. Or maybe
I think it was 6 for 30, I think.
6, okay,
yeah.
But anyway, it was better. It was better than being 9 or 10 or 12 or something there.
Right. Well, a recap of the game. Shoto Maisie, they won the toss and chose to receive the kickoff. I think this is the 3rd game in a row where we lost the toss, but the opposing team, Matt's going, that's all right with me.
Yeah. It's worked out well.
Matt's saying, I'm your Huckleberry, as they kicked off, like I say, 3 times in the last 3 games. And on 3rd and 10, Cade Schaefer jumped on a fumble exchange, and the Eagles were in business at the Wildcat 12-yard line. So, Mark and I were talking about, you don't want to give this team any extra possessions, us being the Eagles. And here we are right at the 12. And on the very first offensive play, Cale hit Noah Goodwin for a 12-yard touchdown pass. The extra point failed. Then Shoto went 3 and out. Another nice stand by the defense. And on a great defensive play, by Compton Nero, as it would have been a complete pass. If the guy has any ability at all and maybe still going, to the end zone, but he tips it away, forcing them to punt. And the Eagles started at the Wildcat 39-yard line and scored on a 9-yard touchdown toss from Marley to Z. And, we don't – it happens every game where and we don't get to talk about them enough, but we always get to talk about guys that make blocks out on the perimeter. But that line every week is making holes for the backs and then they go into the second level and knocking those back. But on that particular play, I went back and watched, and Blake Witten shoved his guy back a good 10 yards whenever he blocked, making it so Z could go on and score on that. So
Into the end, into the end zone.
But, I mean, he just stayed on his guy and just kept shoving him backwards. I'm going, good job, Blake.
Well, no, I'm really proud of that because that's something that with all of our receivers, if you go back and watch our first 2 or 3 ball games, we weren't blocking. And we challenged them after like week 3, and they have answered the call. I mean, they have been blocking their tails off. And Blake's one of the ones that's been blocking the best. I mean, he's been busting it. And you talk about blocking, hats off to the offensive line too.
Yes.
Yep.
That first play of that first touchdown you mentioned, when Kel got the ball, our number 1 read was not open. And then our underneath reads were not open. And then he was able to kind of roll to the left a little bit and found Noah because the offensive line gave him time.
Right.
So, anyway, just props.
I mean, when you can go to check off your first, your second, and hit your third option, that's pretty good time you got back there.
Yep.
Well, after driving to the Eagles' 18-yard line, the Wildcats turned it over on downs, and on 2nd and 2, Neil Lieber caught a pass from Marley at the Wildcat 35-yard line and ran it there for 55 yards for a touchdown. The PAT was good. So one of many big plays that night. That took the score to 21-0 to begin the second quarter. And then also in the second quarter, after a good return, Shoto had the ball at the Eagles' 45-yard line. But the Wildcats were once again turned over on downs after the D stopped them on 4th down again at the Eagle 18-yard line, where an 82-yard run by Goodwin to the end zone was called back on one of those holds that you were called. I did go back and I saw the hold. Saw the jersey being pulled back, and I thought if it had just let go of that jersey.
Yeah.
But, however, unable to – but he was eventually able to score, even though that was wiped off the books after the Eagles drove all the way down the field and punched it in from the 1 for a 28-0 halftime lead after the PAT by Andrus. So, Coach, Eagles able to score, like you said, on every possession in the first half. The D stiffened up when they needed to. I'd say you had to be pretty pleased with the first half of play. You're going in, we ask you every week, what are you telling your guys? You're leading up, you're 28-0. However, and I'll ask, Matt to comment on that as far as them being able to drive deep, but what are you telling your offense at this point?
Just that let's take advantage of our second half possessions. They want to score more than 28, and so we're not going to get the ball a whole lot. They might run the clock. If they run the clock, we're going to get it even less. So just enjoy being out on the road on a Friday night in an atmosphere. It was senior night there. You just don't get those opportunities, too much. And you'll go through the rest of the year, the winter months, the spring, summer, and you just want to be back and be on a Friday night. So just capture the moment, do something great, and leave it all out there on the field.
Yep. Coach Eckel, your defense, they've allowed a couple of drives deep.
Right.
But we're able to turn them back. So what are you telling the defense at this point?
It was really simple. We just told them that when we played low, they didn't gain a lot of yards. And when we got high or when we got tall or when we tried to tackle too high, that was when we had mistakes and they gained a little bit. And that was really as simple as it was.
Yeah.
And
well, they're number 20. You weren't going to tackle him high.
Right.
Yeah, you weren't going to arm tackle that guy.
No.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So coming out at halftime, the Eagles received the second half kickoff, and on 2nd and 20 from their own 25-yard line, Camion took the snap. He was in at quarterback at this point and ran 75 yards to pay dirt. Camion's one of these guys. Noah's the same way. They plant that foot. Once they plant that foot and turn upfield, you better be in front of him because you're probably – you're not going to catch – especially Camion. You're not going to catch him from behind nine times out of 10.
Yeah, that was great. He's been doing that all year at different times, and he just brings in a great effort on the run game. It gives us a different look, and it's been like 4 weeks in a row we've came out of halftime and then shifted into some quarterback run game, and it's paid off.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that one did big time. Like I say, exciting to see him go down the sideline there. And after the D forced yet another 3 and out, the Eagles took over at their own 41-yard line, and then Blake Witten took what was just a short 10-yard pass from Compton Nero and turned it into a 56-yard touchdown. And again, the PAT good, taking the score up to 42-0. And then the Eagles got the ball after Noah Schnackenberg recovered a fumble, fumble recoveries, several 3-and-outs, and then turnovers on downs. But we recovered the fumble at the Eagles' 42-yard line, and the Eagles drove to the Wildcat 16-yard line, where Camion took it on a quarterback keep around the right side for really an easy 16-yard. Again, it looked easy because he had great blocking, but went around the right side and was able to score on a 16-yard run to finish off the scoring at 49-0. And really at that point, the only thing that left was whether the D was going to get that coveted shutout. And that's when, after a run of 59 yards, freshman Alex Yorman tracked down the Wildcat tailback on a TD saving tackle at the 6-yard line to preserve that shutout. And again, he was Matt's favorite guy at the end of that ball game, because that's just what a defensive coach wants, and that's what the defense wants. They don't want to give up any points. They're pretty stingy when it comes to that. Overall, you had to be pretty pleased getting on the bus with that type of victory, Coach Eckel, especially with your defense.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like they've been playing really well for the last several weeks. I don't think we've, other than the Pecola game, so the other, 5 games, we haven't given up more than 6. So it's been a good run. They're really dialed in, and we've kind of noticed when we get to Wednesday, it feels like that we kind of turn the control over to them, and they can kind of really run the practice and get us lined up right and know what to expect in each formation, and that's really been so key for us. So having that good leadership out there, and they've been playing really well.
Yeah, and like I said, on offense, we obviously scored a ton of points again. The thing that I noticed when you go down the list is, once again, you had a different guy. You had Blake Witten leading, as we'll see when we go over the stats, led receiving this week. Last week it was Z and nobody else. This week you've got, 4 or 5 guys getting in the action.
Week before, I think it was Ben Nichols.
Ben Nichols week before.
Yep.
So every week, what a luxury to have so many offensive weapons, starting with Camion and Kale at quarterback, and then you've got Noah in the tailback slot, but then when you have Kale in the quarterback, you got also Camion in the tailback slot, and then you can come in with Mojica, who runs just as hard, and then you've got a number of receivers, at least 4 or 5 receivers that you can toss the ball to at any time, and they're going to be in danger of scoring. Yeah,
no, it's a great thing, and I think one of the greatest things about it is most of them are coming back.
Yes.
So
it's a young team. When we see, time after time, we'll say freshmen.
It's all freshmen out there right now.
Right.
Well, and there's at one time, I think it was there at the end of the game, it was
pretty
much
close.
a freshman team on the field. Well, we're going to do something a little bit different tonight than we've done with any other coaches show. You know the old saying that the old gray mare isn't what it quite used to be? Well, neither are Mark and I's eyes, and especially
if we're embedded.
When we're sitting down low right on the field, we don't quite see what everybody else does up in the box. Or that's why I love home games, because we're up in the press box and we can see just about everything going on. But we're going to give a coach's show offensive and defensive player of the game. And so as far as, after watching the game film, we're going to add a couple of them. We'll tell you who they are as we go down, but we're going to add a couple of POG recipients tonight. And like I say, it'd be much easier. Anybody want to do stats during the game in our box there? You got to stand up the whole time and write it down. No.
Watch the game through binoculars.
Yeah, we're gonna work up something with Mike and have him, take pictures and get us something, because when we're on the away games, but of course, we keep winning, we won't have to worry about not being up in the box. We'll be up in somebody's press box from here on out. But again, we had a couple of different people that stood out that we're going to add to the players of the game. Looking at the offensive leaders in passing, you had Kale, who was 11 for 15 for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. You had Camion, was 5 for 5 for 88 yards and a touchdown. And then in rushing, you had Noah with 8 rushes, 56 yards and a touchdown, and Camion, 4 rushes for 97 yards. And these are just the highlights, and the leaders, and 2 touchdowns for Camion. In receiving, our additional coach's show player of the game, Blake Witten, had 6 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown and a 2-point conversion and that block that I watched on film. So I thought, this guy's got to have a player of the game, from us. So, and well deserved. Neil Lieber had 2 catches for a touchdown. For I forget how many yards I think not a whole lot of yards, but he did have the touchdown. Well, no, that one was like, I think he had probably 65 yards, something like that, and a touchdown. I just didn't put it down in my notes here. Ben Nichols, 1 catch for 28 yards, and ZZ, 2 catches for 13 yards and a touchdown. And then, of course, Noah Goodwin with that one touchdown that we talked about where he snuck out of the backfield there on the 3rd check down and received a 12-yard catch from Marley. We had a very balanced attack with 238 yards on the ground, 173 through the air. And even though they slowed it down and tried to take the air out of the ball, still had a 411 yards of total offense with, once again, like we said, different leaders receiving, and rushing categories.
Yeah, it was an overall great team effort, and just so many guys, like you've already, you can just rattle off name after name, getting involved, and that's what we want, because that makes it harder, as Coach Eckel knows. When we watch an opponent, we're like, we come in, the first thing he'll say is he'll call out jersey numbers. We got to stop. We got to stop this kid, and usually it's this kid and this kid. Sometimes it's 3. A lot of times it's 1. If we can stop this kid, we'll win the game.
Yep.
Well, it'd be interesting. What
the
thought is on when you look at our film. With how many numbers are you thinking you gotta stop, and someone different might step up that's not one of the numbers you've called on. So.
Well, and so often in Class A, you got guys going both ways.
Both ways, yeah.
Because your best players have to play on offense and defense. Well, you've only got so many best players on defense trying to cover 6, 7 best players on offense. Right. And so, when you got those guys in the tailback slot, you got 3 guys and all 3 of them can run, especially when Cale gets 100%, which I'm sure he's mighty close.
Yeah.
And then you've got the receivers we've got. Pick your poison,
Yeah, and it depends on the alignment, too. Different things happen in different alignments, so how you you can zone in on exactly.
And Casey's just got to be up there thinking, okay, let's see, what do I want to run this time with my 3 guys that can run as a tailback in the backfield here? It's just got to be, he's got to be having fun up there. Mark, defensive side of things?
Yeah, again, on the defense, first off, I want to say that, once again, these last few weeks, we try our best to keep stats as we're going through the game, and we've got a list of everybody that's out on the field, and everybody's involved in the action. It's just, I love watching that, watching the guys fly to the ball. Everybody's playing they're getting their responsibility out of the way, but once they isolate where that ball's at, everybody's going to the ball.
Right.
You very rarely just see us 1 or 2 guys getting in on a tackle. Right. I think that's fantastic. That's what's causing the defense to be so successful. I think is it's keeping people from getting those extra after first contact yards that everybody else really kind of relies on. So I think that's fantastic. But it also makes our job when we're talking about players of the game nearly impossible.
Yeah, because you look at the list you're getting ready to read. This is just the leaders. This isn't 15 guys that made tackles.
No, absolutely. Yeah, so. First off, we have our additional Coaches Show player of the game tonight is Carson Losey, who we knew Carson had a great game.
Right.
But we had several guys on there that had great games too. So, Carson had 14 tackles. 14 tackles, right?
Yeah, playing nose guard.
Yeah, playing nose guard.
Yeah.
Exactly. 4 solo, 1 for loss. Cade Schaefer, who's once again, he's just been a beast these last several weeks.
He's a stalwart there.
Yeah, 15 tackles, 7 solo, and a fumble recovery. Maverick Gwynn, 8 tackles, 4 solo, and a tackle for loss. Jet McCain, 7 tackles, 3 solo. Carter Acree, 6 tackles, 4 solo, and a tackle for loss. Which, again, I'm loving seeing his tackles for loss.
Yep.
And I know one of the other ones, one was like quarterback pressures.
Yeah.
Getting those quarterback pressures in there, I think, is another fantastic thing to do. Camion, 7 tackles, 2 solo from his position. That Noah Schnackenberg, 3 solos, a tackle for loss, and fumble recovery. We're getting also those fumble. This is how many weeks in a row we've had fumble recoveries. No interceptions this time, but I don't think they threw the ball enough for us to get too many opportunities for interceptions. So it's just another fantastic night.
I think they had 3 yards passing or 4 yards. It was
it was one little pass.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So how many? Just out of curiosity, you may or may not know the answer to this. How many turnovers do we have so far in the season?
I don't know the exact number at this moment. I haven't really looked at that yet. I know our goal. We always talk about goals at the beginning of the year, and we want to average 3 a game. so 30 at the end of the regular season after those 10 games, and I'm sure we're well on our way to that.
Yeah, I would think you're above 20.
Right, right. So, we're meeting those goals. So, they're doing a great job and really flying to the ball.
They are, and again, getting that pressure, getting across the line, getting those tackles for loss, the quarterback pressures on the teams that do pass a lot. Those they mean a lot, and it gives you the opportunity to really kind of shut down that whole passing game. And I think it's shown as far as not being able to get any points on the board.
Right.
Well, and once again, you've got bigger players that they're going against, and yet our speed allows us to get through the gaps and put that pressure and make teams one-dimensional if they're not a good blocking team, if they don't have a good pass block technique.
Right. Yeah, I don't think anyone's looking at us on film and describing us as big.
Intimidating.
We got a couple
guys
guys
are
that
huge.
are decent size, but not real big. The last couple
Not the
years
average.
we had Tommy and Nate last couple of years, really big guys that did a great job for us. But I would imagine that when teams watch us on film, they're probably saying that we're pretty fast and we're pretty aggressive on defense.
We are that.
And it's paying off. It's
one thing that was kind of stood out. Shoto, I'm sure you looked at that. Those gaps that the guys were lining up in. That offensive line made it. I was feeling claustrophobic just looking at them.
Yeah.
They're nearly standing on top of each other, and yet we were still getting through there.
Right. Yep.
We were still clogging up those holes. So I think that shows you exactly how quick those guys are getting the read and getting to their position.
And then, of course, after the game was over, Coach, we're sitting there wrapping things up, and we don't get, when we're at home, a lot of times we're getting that stuff wrapped up and we don't notice. But I did notice the guys, for one, both teams out for prayer in the center, but several guys off to the side. Was there anything that, because every week you guys have guys praying for guys on the other team, anything that happened during the week or during that game or that time period after the game that you want to speak of?
Yeah, I haven't heard from all the players yet on what happened after the game, but I do know that praise the Lord, we had another salvation.
That's awesome.
And then we had a rededication.
Wow. These are kids, folks. These are high school kids going out and proselytizing, basically.
It was really neat on the rededication kid. I saw 3 or 4 of our players circled with him, and they all had their arms around each other in a circle. And his dad was waiting on him. And when he got done out of the circle, it looked like some tears were being shed, and they embraced and held each other and kind of, were just swaying, and Dad was holding them. And I just, that's just thanks to our guys for answering that call, but, just also, obviously we're a biblically based school, but it's not a religious thing. It's a relationship thing, and our guys truly try to be the light of Christ and use football as a tool. And so I think that's just hats off to young men. I mean, I don't know how many young men. I mean, when we were in high school, were we thinking about praying for guys after football games?
No.
So that's just a tremendous deal. And so thankful
And you
for
say
that.
we're a religious school. I've seen a lot of religious Bible-based schools that don't come close to doing anything like that.
Well, I think it's a priority, and I think it's one of those things that our guys really believe that. I mean, this game is fleeting. This game is going to be, like we said before. I mean, I was telling a parent on Saturday that had emailed me from a relationship with the Shoto team. There's a couple players on that team that were really impacted by the prayer at the end and just by us joining their circle, like you mentioned. Which one of them emailed me, and it was a kind of a neat deal. But nobody cares about what Rejoice did at Shoto on October 25th in 2024, week 8.
I can just imagine that dad saying, "Son, you lost the game, but you won.
You won something much.
You
much
won the
important.
night."
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, because it's so much more important.
Yes.
Well,
I can tell you, it's just amazing to see that going on. I've been involved in sports my entire life, and I've never seen anything like that going on. It's humbling.
Yes.
It's humbling.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Well, Coach, Holbert's coming to town tomorrow night or to Friday night, and if things go according to plan, we should be able to take care of business and let a lot of guys in the game. I think everybody's healthy for the first time ever. I was talking to Coach Eckel, and there's a good chance that every single body will suit up Friday night. looking at their game film against Warner, it looks like we'll be able to open up the playbook against the Riders. And also, with the win, we would clinch the district championship, if I'm correct. And I would think that would give the players some additional motivation to go out and play well. But it also is going to give Hobart motivation to try and keep us from doing that. Are the players aware that they could be – I'm sure they know they could be district champs after Friday night.
Yeah, they're aware. They know. It's one of those things that we've let them know and talked to them. We kind of, you really have to, because we've got to continue to improve and get better. And so that is one thing that, hey, just go out and earn this. We want to do this the right way, and you want to feel good about it. I mean, you don't want to win a district championship and have a sloppy performance and not play well.
Yes.
And you kind of one of those games where you win, but you got this ugly taste in your mouth.
Right.
And so we just got to keep improving ourselves, and we definitely want to go get this one and wrap it up. But in our minds, it won't be wrapped up, because then we're going to want to go undefeated and get one more on
Right.
senior night.
Yep.
Right. So, Coach Eckel, looking at them on game film, they seem to be it doesn't look like they have a good passing game, or they don't seem to. The guy, he's got some passes away, but I think it was against last week against Warner, I think. Is that who they were playing last week? I believe so.
Yeah, Warner and last week, I believe.
Yeah, and so the game film that I saw looks like they're pretty much going to be running, and that really their quarterback is, from what again, could be totally wrong. I didn't watch the whole thing, but is basically their main guy on offense.
Yeah, we've kind of identified him as their best player, and they have more balance than Shoto. They will throw the ball. He throws the ball much better than they did, and they have a little better scheme, passing scheme than Shoto. But they do want to run the ball mostly. The quarterback's a really good athlete, and his arm's not bad. They've got a receiver they really like to get the ball to that's pretty solid, and their running back runs really hard. And again, like a lot of weeks, that we'll be a little undersized. They've got some big boys up front, so we're going to have to play physical.
And so, Coach Marley, like I said, we should be able to open the playbook. And, I didn't see anything glaring from their defense that we shouldn't be able to do if we perform like we should be able to perform.
Right. We've added a little bit here, and some things we've had kind of on the agenda we wanted to get in for a while now. We're kind of trying to add a couple things to kind of finalize the install, so to speak, of the playbook and everything being in there. So, trying to challenge our guys to keep learning and do that. And again, just got to execute, control what we can control, and be fast, operate fast, clean. And we want to have a clean game and take care of the football.
100%. Well, all right, Eagle Nation. As much as Mark and I love bringing you the ball game, we'd much rather have you in attendance Friday night. Great job to traveling to Shoto. I think Mark and I looked around, and Mark made the comment that I think we outnumbered the home crowd when we went over to Shoto. Great travel last week. I was a little disappointed, I'm not going to lie, with the sparse crowd that we had at our last home game.
Yeah,
it was fall break. We excused it because of that. But
no more excuses.
Yeah, no more excuses. We need you every game from here on out, and this week is no exception. You need to be there as the Eagles go after and be there to celebrate their District A1-4 championship on their way to the playoffs. They've already made the playoffs. This will just put us right there at the top in the bracket. So let's show up. So, be there Friday night as we cheer these guys on to victory. Coach Marley, any last thoughts?
No. I'm excited to get going. Let's go get this one.
I wish it was Friday night.
Yeah.
Coach Eckel?
Same. Let's go win.
Yep. Mark?
Just have a good week of practice, and everybody come in safe and stay healthy, and everything should turn out well, I think.
Yeah, stay healthy at practice, boys. We're finally healthy all the way around, so watch yourself.
No unnecessary.
That's right. So be sure to join us this Friday night as we bring you the live action from Gibbs Field as the Eagles take on the Hobart Riders. Thanks to Hunter and Josh and the crew here at Buffalo Wild Wings. For my wingman, Mark Kirk, for coaches Brent Marley and Matt Eckel, and, of course, our engineer Todd Witten, I'm Bill Bush, and you've been watching the Rejoice Christian Eagles Coaches Show on this Rejoice Athletics TV YouTube channel. Good night, God bless, and go Eagles.